savings program. We've heard quite a bit of it during the last budget in December by the Prime Minister, and certainly Mr. Natta will give us pertinent and relevant information here to tell us and even answer some of the questions that the general public may have. And I'm going to say good afternoon to you, Dr. Natta. How are you feeling today?
Thank you so much. I'm doing well. I'm doing well, thank you.
Well, certainly we want to greet you and thank you for being with us today. And for the sake of the public, could you just tell the public who you are, basically, in a nutshell, of course?
Sure. So my name is Marcus Natta. I am the Cabinet Secretary for the Federal Government of St. Kitts and Nevis. And today I'm here really in my capacity as Chair of the Financial Education and Savings Program Task Force. And this task force was put and established back in December, shortly after the Prime Minister made his announcement during his budget address that this initiative is something he wants for the young people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And so outside of my role as Cabinet Secretary, I've been charged with this task, and so I'm here today just to give the general public and specifically our fellow citizens here on Nevis an idea of what the program is about and what they can envisage as we roll this out later on this year.
Dr. Natta, as you hinted at just now, this financial and education savings program, first off, to begin with, what brought about the federal government's decision to introduce such a program?
Yeah, well, the Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew, is who brought this, as I said, during his budget address, and I think it's just part of his ethos, right? He's a visionary, and he's always looking to empower young people and women, especially, who are two groups that are, usually vulnerable as well as underrepresented in many spheres. And you can see how he has pushed women in terms of, even in the federal cabinet, you can see the makeup there in terms of the women, and also in other spheres, national boards, permanent secretaries, high-level positions and otherwise. And then in terms of the youth component of things, he's a strong advocate for youth, especially empowering them, and this is just one aspect, to empower them financially and in terms of financial literacy as well. So, the Prime Minister, as I said, is a visionary, he's ambitious, and he proposed this particular initiative because he wants to engender a shift in the generational wealth of persons, help them to create generational wealth. And many young people don't have that opportunity, and so it's something that he feels is transformative and can be transformative for the entire nation.
As you spoke about generational wealth, I'm gathering so far, Dr. Natta, that it seems as if, other than the sense of empowerment and financial literacy, there is some sense of the government more so wants the youth to enjoy life on a, if I can use this term, on a long-lasting basis.
Yes.
Because I would tell you, growing up, a lot of us, well, most of us, we've never heard of such a thing from the government, or I dare say perhaps across the Eastern Caribbean. We've never heard of such a thing. And so, we can commend, of course, the federal government and the Prime Minister as a whole for, as you said, having this vision and even seeking to empower the young people. But as it relates to that program, basically, we've heard quite a bit of it. We've understand that the government, on the part of the government, about 1,000 EC dollars will be given to each child, not in hand, of course, but to an account, if you will. What we want to know is that, where are we in that aspect? Where are we 3/4 complete with that, 75%, whatever it is?
Okay, so let me just give a little context to that question, because that's really the meat of today's visit for sure. Now, the program is a three-pronged program, as I like to view it. One is the financial education, skills development, empowerment side of things. Two, the savings part of it, which is the $500. So it's $1,000 total, but $500 will be a cash savings at the St. Kitts Nevis Anguilla National Bank, which is our indigenous bank. And the third prong is the investment portion, the shares component that has been introduced, which is the novel part, I believe, of this program.
Dr. Natta, if I will, I'm sorry to interject, but as it relates to shares, is it safe to say, just for the sake of the public, the listening and viewing public, shares as it relates to the company, the government which have shares in certain companies, like the cable?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Just to clarify that.
So of that $1,000, $500 will go into a cash savings account, which has to remain as is until the applicant, the child, young person, turns 18, and I'll explain that a little bit more later as well. So it can't be touched, can't withdraw during the course of the program and that sort of thing. And then the other $500 will go towards a special fund, which is geared towards investments. And in the first instance, the two investments that will be made are in the companies of the St. Kitts Nevis Anguilla National Bank and the cable. So the cable is in the process right now of divesting its shares, and those will be made publicly available to the young persons on the program. And then, of course, as the years go by, we envisage investment in other companies locally and possibly even regionally as the fund grows and matures.
Basically, it's safe to say, basically, you're not going to stay just in St. Kitts and Nevis. You're going to look to, if I can use this term, spread out your wings.
Yes.
I'm gathering that. That's very good.
So we will definitely start here locally with our local companies, which are government-owned entities. But of course, as the fund grows, which we hope and intend for it to do, so that more benefits can be accrued by these young persons while they have the shares in this particular fund, then those persons who will ultimately be managing the fund, I am sure, will diversify and look at other areas, other companies. Of course, weighing the risks that can come with investment, so that the persons who are part of the fund, which are the young people, get the greatest benefit. So as I said, it's a three-pronged approach: the education component, cash savings, as well as the investment in shares.
Well, definitely, as you've indicated, it will take some time.
Yes.
But I suppose I'm not sure if you're at liberty to give a definitive time frame.
So I know that was the other part of your question. And so where are we right now?
Yes.
One, as I'm sitting here, this is part of the process.
Yes.
Educating the public, sensitizing them, and informing as to what is happening with the program, what the program is all about. So this is very much part of the process that we're working towards. What we intend to do, first and foremost, is the savings component. We feel that is sort of the low-hanging fruit amongst this whole gamut of things that we have to do.
Yes.
People open savings accounts
all the
day,
time, yes.
right? So that's something that we feel can be easily done. Of course, that will have to be a process, because it's young persons who would need a parent or guardian to be a part of that. We endeavor to have that started in September at the start of the school year, so that's something persons can look forward to beginning in September. So we'll be rolling out the program in some phases, and so persons can look forward to us providing some more information as to how you go about establishing those accounts, which again will begin with an initial investment of $500 from the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. The other component of things is the financial education portion, and I want to assure the public that we are well advanced on that. And I have to give kudos to my subcommittee, who is dealing with that and being led by Ms. Sybil Welch, who is from the ECCB. And that financial education curriculum is essentially already completed. What we are doing now is working closely with the Ministry of Education And on both islands, we want to ensure that we synergize whatever the Ministry of Education has been doing in that area, because I'm sure they teach young persons, they have that in the curriculum, how to deal with money and so on. And we don't want to add any additional burden to the teachers, so we want to create some good synergies with our curriculum, with theirs. And that has been done because we have Ministry of Education reps on the committee as well. So what has been going on right now are some pilots, some tests with the teachers, getting them familiarized with the curriculum and seeing any challenges they have, any additional resources we need to give them, again, so that we don't add. It doesn't feel like we're adding another class to them or adding another burden for them in terms of their teaching load already. So I'm really glad that is on the way. We've used a model from the ECCB, which developed their own education curriculum, financial education program as well throughout the ECCU, actually led by Ms. Welch as well. So we have some good expertise in that area. And so we want to roll that out, hopefully during the first school term. And then the third component, which is the investment in the shares, which is the more complex part of things, because young persons can't actually own shares per se. So we have to create some vehicle to accommodate that, and we are in the process of doing that. We have legal persons on our team as well, but definitely the Prime Minister mentioned that this program will be launched in 2024, and when the Prime Minister speaks, we have to ensure that we make what he says come to fruition. And since I'm chair, I'm tasked with that, and I can definitely assure the public that we are working hard to ensure that all three phases of this program are launched before December 31st, 2024, starting again in the new school year with the savings accounts.
Dr. Natta, based on information, I understand, as I've mentioned earlier, this applies to children that are born in St. Kitts and Nevis between the ages of 5 and 18,
yes,
correct?
Correct.
As it relates to perhaps non-nationals that perhaps are living here for a certain amount of years,
yes.
What about that sect of group of persons?
So the program is geared towards citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. Now, that can be citizen by birth or citizen by descent. Okay? You also have to be residing here in St. Kitts and Nevis, meaning you have to be enrolled in school, and even if you're homeschooled, of course, there's a registration process with the Ministry of Education even for that.
Okay.
So that is the sort of category of young persons. Yes, the age is 5 to 18. Economic citizens, persons who are not non-citizens, of course, are not eligible for this particular program. What the Prime Minister has asked, and what the committee will be doing, is at the time he made the announcement, if you were 17 and 364 days old, and the next day you turn 18,
yes,
then, based on the criteria, you would not be eligible because the program hasn't even been fully launched yet. Okay. So the Prime Minister has asked that as of the date of his announcement, if that young person was 17 years old, that we ensure that they become a part of the program. Okay? So of course we're not going to capture everyone.
Yes.
Yes. So if you were 19 at the time, unfortunately, and I'm sure, me and you, we've experienced things that we wish came about when we were at a certain age.
And that's why I said earlier, Dr. Natta, growing up, we never heard of such a thing, growing up, not to sidetrack or anything, but when you look at certain companies, all you know is that you're going in there with your parents to pay a bill, and that's it.
Right. Right.
But continue, sir, continue.
Yes. So for sure and it was December 13th, I believe he made his announcement, 2023. And so if you were 17 years old and younger, up to age 5 at that time, then you would be a part of the program once we launch the program. Of course, everybody has a birthday. There's a birthday, not everybody, but there's a birthday happening every day. So somebody's turning from 4 to 5 and from 17 to 18 and so on. So we are working hard to make sure we capture all the young people as quickly as possible, but we want to do the program in the right way. One of the things that we have run into as a bit of a challenge, which we are going to ensure that we deal with in a prudent way, is having older persons. So if you're, let's say, 15 at this point, 16, we don't think being on the program just for 2 years, 3 years is sufficient. One, it is not sufficient for you to garner the dividends from the shares, enough dividends. It's not enough years to get a good, strong return on the savings, in the interest rate on the savings. And so for those kind of older persons, older teens, we will endeavor to have them on the program a bit longer, not till they're 30 years old or something like that, but a bit longer so that they can get, one, a full appreciation and a full amount of time on the program in terms of the financial education, so they get that literacy component of it, and then again get the financial benefits from the shares as well as the interest rates. So we are looking at a period of time there, and maybe 5 years at least minimum for those sort of older ones. But definitely somebody who is 5 years old, 6 years old, at the time you're 18, then you will have your choice as to what you would want to do with the funds that that would have accrued by that time.
Dr. Natta, I must say that information you just presented was one of the questions I had actually, and I'm glad you raised it, because as you pointed out, from what I'm gathering from you, it wouldn't be fair, so to speak, that you're 16 or whatever, and then you turn 18 and you only get X amount of money, which could have been more.
Correct.
You know,
Correct.
So definitely it's commendable on the federal government's part. What we would like to know also is that at what age, because I know the age range is between 5 and 18, at what age can a young person say, okay, I would like to collect my money, or whatever it is? I would like to collect whatever I have saved. Well, let's put it this way. It's not like they're saving, you know, it's people saving for them. But we would just like to know at what age, because I know at certain other banks, a child can reach a certain age and then they can go and collect because their parents would have saved up X amount of money for them.
Right.
So we just want to know that.
Yes. So, yeah, that's a good question. Now, again, the program is for 5 to 18-year-olds. So really, our cutoff, the end point of the program is 18, with an asterisk based on what I said earlier.
Yes, exactly, and that's what caused me to ask the question too.
Right. So our process, which we have a process subcommittee that is working that out as well, looks at the fact that, okay, if you're on the program, we want you to be on the program at least a minimum of 10 years, minimum. Again, 18 is with an asterisk. So if you're on the program from 5 years old, you now turn 18, our hope is not necessarily that that young person now would go and withdraw all the money and, you know, go and do whatever they wish. It could be a good thing they're going to do with it. Our hope is during that 10 plus years of this financial education and literacy and skills development and empowerment, that young person is now equipped to make a prudent decision with the funds that are available to them. So at the age of 18, the funds would be accessible to them, and of course it's of their own free will to do what they wish with the funds, but we would hope that it wouldn't be something that is wasteful, but having garnered that knowledge from the program, that education, that financial education, they would maybe reinvest, or maybe say, you know what, I want to leave it there, or maybe take out some to do something else. But again, that's up to them. For the older teens, like I said, who would go on a little longer in the program, once they reach the end of their portion of the program, then they can withdraw the funds. But if you're under 18, you will not be able to withdraw any funds. We are looking at the fact of allowing, you know, persons to add to the savings account. Let's say you have a little side job as a young teen, and you say, you know what, I want to save. You on the program, you're learning about saving and budgeting. You say, you know what, I want to add some money to my account. You can do that, but you cannot withdraw before you exit the program. And as I said, we have a process subcommittee that is looking at how do you enter the program, matriculate through the program, and then what does exiting the program, like you said, what does that look like for a young person? So that again is something that we are working on.
Dr. Natta, if I may, so far as I would like to glean on certain things, it seems to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the federal government, it seems as if to me they're trying to change the ideology of persons in St. Kitts and Nevis. What do I mean when I say that? Growing up, we've heard of terms like you have to economize and that kind of thing, and save up for a rainy day. And now it seems to me, rather than just encouraging people, the government is now trying to make the resources available to people, or more so children, to start from young, so that they can understand in their own little way, saving up is important, investing is important. And again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is this part of the federal government's thrust to kind of change the thinking as it relates to finance and financial literacy?
Definitely. That you hit it right on the head. That's definitely what I think the Prime Minister envisions and the federal government as a whole envisions. Right? What I believe is key is you're building I mean, if anybody has built a house or seen a house being built, you don't build from the roof, right? No. So you dig a foundation primarily and so on. What we envision this being is that foundation, right? And if you're going to have a good and strong house, you need a strong foundation. So if we sow these seeds, if we build this foundation now, and then give the education, which is sort of building up these walls for the house, and the roof is maybe the investment and shares. By the time this person is a young adult, 18, 20, 21, and so on, then they have a good head start that maybe some of them, their parents couldn't even provide for them, right? So the government has done that, and that's how we feel we can transform persons' lives. It is very easy to give persons money, right? It's very easy to pass somebody on the street and give them $20 if they ask for it and so on, or give some sort of handout for something. But it is very different to really empower persons and twin that with education. So yes, we're giving you some money, but we're also telling you, hey, this is what you can do with the money. What a lot of the much smarter people than I am on the committee, especially when it comes to financial matters, are saying is that saving alone is no longer the way to go. Our grandparents back in the day, they would have some money in a brown paper bag somewhere under their mattress or pillow, and then when banks came along, people would put their pennies in the bank or put whatever change, and they got a little interest. That is, all those things were good, but it is no longer enough to just save. So you really want to grow your money, you have to look at investment. And if you don't know about investment, you could end up losing your money. So if we can equip young people, and it's always better to start with young people because they can also help to educate us as adults. Anybody who has children knows if something happens in school or they learn something, a lot of times children come home and right now we're trying to end the use of single-use plastic use right here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so we start with the primary schools, and they have recycle bins and so on. So now when you go home, Mr. Browne, and you go and you try to throw a plastic bottle in the garbage, your son, your daughter, whatever may say, no. In school they told us to separate the bottles, and there's a recycling thing. So you really have to start with the young people. So now they can even educate us and say, Mommy, Daddy, why we have to go to that restaurant, why we buying this particular thing, look at the price of that. They taught us in school you should look for a local product, buy the local chicken or buy the local vegetables instead of that. And so it's not just about the children, because the parents are gonna get a little bit of that education too, and we're also looking at how we can assist parents and guardians as well and teach them as well. Outside, it will be outside of school settings, but we're also looking and seeing how we can get them into the program, so to speak, in the financial education portion of things.
Dr. Natta, thank you very much for that information. What we would like to know also, to be practical, how does one be a part of this program? Like, you know how certain institutions are, you have to go into, you get a form, you jot down your information, etc. How does the government plan to exactly roll out in terms of, if I bring my child, I bring them, we have to sign up for them on a form,
yes,
or whatever, whatever it is. Could you just, relay that or convey that to the public?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we are working hard on that that part of things for sure.
Yes, yes.
What we are trying to do, and what I believe are having the challenging ourselves with, is how do we make it as easy as possible for persons? Because, as I said, people open bank accounts every day, but it is not necessarily the shortest process, and depending on what they ask you. And now we're dealing with we could be dealing with young children from 5 all the way up to 18, right?
Yes.
So we want to make sure that process is as seamless as possible for persons and as easy as possible. Right now, what we will be doing is working with the Ministry of Education, because again, we want these young citizens, they have to be in school. And so if we work with the Ministry of Education, who has all of the school enrollments and so on, that would be very helpful because they have a lot of that information. And then working with the National Bank, St. Kitts Nevis Anguilla National Bank, as to how we can make that process smooth and easy for persons. So the process is not fully developed yet, but I can tell you that we envisage not necessarily telling people to go and descend onto each branch of they see for National Bank, doing that. That might not be the best route. So we are looking at a much easier pathway for persons to do that. It's not fully formalized yet, so I don't want to say, but we really want to make it as easy as possible for persons to do that. Yeah.
Dr. Natta, thank you very much for that also.
Sure.
Another thing too, how can persons reach out to, let's say, the go-to person when it is all said and done? How can persons go to whoever is directly responsible to set up their children? Like, do they have to call the cabinet sex office, or is there another committee involved that deals with that? Are you at liberty to relay such information?
Yeah, so what we're thinking about with that is really having we definitely want to have at least a go-to unit. It might be temporary just to kickstart things, but that has not been set up yet. Eventually, what we envisage is some sort of management overall of this fund and of the program, where persons, it might not necessarily even need to be a physical location per se. I mean, this is 2024, but we would definitely want people to have a points of contact for the phone numbers, email addresses, and so on.
Yes.
So we are looking at that, trying to figure out, do we do a dedicated online portal for something like that, so all information is in one place and so on. We recognize that there could be some fatigue from the public over the years, where they always had to register for things. They had to register for certain social assistance programs, register for back to school, maybe voucher programs, different things. There might be some fatigue there. So we want to see how can we make it as easy and less burdensome for persons to get information that they need. But that's something we're definitely looking at right now. Yeah.
Will there be some sort of deadline also for persons to sign up?
No, we don't envision a deadline, because this is a program that once we start it, we want it to be sustainable and go for the long haul.
In terms of like registration though?
Right, because once your child turns 5,
yes,
I would imagine once persons know about the program, they would say, how can I then go and register? So there will be the ability to go and register somewhere. Like I said, by that time we'll probably have maybe some online portal, or maybe some way that they can do it request it maybe through their school,
Yes.
as well, or go directly to the Ministry of Education, that sort of thing. So we're gonna work out those kinks for sure and let the public know.
Yes. Dr. Natta, for the record, I just want to let persons know that we are here with Dr. Marcus Natta, the Cabinet Secretary, who is also the chair as it relates to the Financial and Savings Program, a program that the federal government launched, actually announced by the Prime Minister during his December 13th, 2023 budget address. And now Dr. Natta is here giving us relevant information as it relates to where the government is at, how is it going, what can persons expect, etc. And definitely he is here giving us what we need to know and answering quite a few questions that the public needed to know too. So I must say thank you for that, Dr. Natta. Dr. Natta, what we would like to know also is that you've given quite a bit about the children and so on, and it's safe to say, just for the record and for those that have tuned in, the effort that is being, or the energy, sorry, that is being exerted by the government, this is not isolated to St. Kitts. This is St. Kitts and Nevis. So I just want to put that out there, as it relates to the teachers, as you indicated a few minutes earlier in the interview, that the government, the teachers rather, is going to have to do their part to, in some sort of way, help the children to understand things certain relating to money and financial literacy. And I would imagine this would be growing up. We used to hear things like mentors and that kind of thing. I'm not sure how would that be incorporated into that, but I can tell from what you've said so far, in some sort of way, the teachers will have to incorporate that. And what I was say too, which is commendable, you're not trying to put any additional strain on them, because let's face it, dealing with children is not easy.
Correct.
So I just I just want to commend the government and you, sir,
yes,
even on that regard. Dr. Natta, considering all that I've said and all that you've said, relating to the children and so on, and I must say thank you for clearing up that doubt as it relates to if you're Spanish, Guyanese, Jamaican, it's not like you can't qualify. I just want to thank you for that. Now, let's say, just a scenario, let's say someone happens to leaves the country. I leave the country with me and my child, we leave the country and we go overseas to live. Is there any sort of provision set up for my child to say, I can still collect the money, or will I still be eligible to get in the long run, or anything at all in that respect?
Yeah, so, well, definitely, if this person had set up the account,
yes,
already, and they're part of the investment shares portion of things, then that's fine. I think initially when I was speaking about it, I meant if persons are overseas already, you're a citizen and you're working out there, you're living there and going to school out there, then you're not eligible. But yes, there could be scenarios where somebody starts out here, maybe at 5 years old,
yes,
and then at 10, for some reason the family has to migrate and so on. Well, we would want the account to stay.
Yes.
I think we still want that to remain the same, and I'm sure the subcommittee I know dealing with this has thought about that as well. We'd want that to remain, and again with the 18 years,
yes,
as sort of the pseudo deadline there, then they can then come back and look at that. We're actually looking at what may happen if an account becomes dormant, which can be something that occurs if the person is overseas. So there's some mechanisms we are looking at to inform persons about the account and so on. What the unfortunate thing would be with that is that the young person would lose out on the financial education and literacy part,
yes,
which is the key thing. So what the task force has also said is everyone will get this financial literacy because it's going to be imbued and embedded in the curricula throughout primary school, high school, CFBC. But some persons may not get the financial savings part of things. One, because they may not be a citizen, and two, they may opt not to do it. Some people may say, my child is, we're well off, for example, or something. They don't necessarily need that, and be magnanimous and say, hey, that's okay, we don't need that. But all the children, even if they're not on the program, once they're in school and in the system here in St. Kitts and Nevis, they're going to at least get that financial education component, that skills development component, which is, I think, is even more valuable than the $1,000 when you look at it.
Yes, yes. And you see, I'm glad you touched on the fact about being dormant, because that's exactly why I asked the question. How there are certain accounts, once you don't do anything with them over a period of time, they just go dormant.
Well, and you see, sometimes the list come out. A bank may publish a list and say, persons come and collect. I think I saw something the other day from, is it Social Security? They were asking people, come and collect checks. So there are mechanisms that we have in place in our systems already that can account for that, to notify the holders of these accounts that, hey, your account has been dormant for some period of time.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I appreciate that. That's one of another question that I had. And it's very interesting too. So it seems to me that there's no getting away from it. What's yours is yours. You're going to get it.
Yes.
Worst case scenario, though, Dr. Natta, God forbid, if a parent has a child, and that child, let's say, passed away.
Yes.
What provision does the government have in place for that? Can the parent clearly collect, or is the chair working out, is the committee working out some sort of means to make sure the parent gets that money invested, or whatever it is?
Yeah, that's something the committee would be looking at. I know I've heard some of the members mention that sort of scenario. What do you do in that instant? Because the savings account in particular is held in trust by a parent or guardian, because a young person can't necessarily, then I would suspect more than likely that parent or guardian may then have access, of course, to that account. I'm not sure about the investment portion of things, because that was assigned to the child and not the parent, and so that may just remain in the pool, the larger pool with other persons. But that's definitely something that I will bring back to the task force. But I know we've had some initial discussions on scenarios like that, for sure.
Yes, and thank you very much for that also, because the way how life is going these days, let's face it, we have to expect anything.
Yes.
And I must say it's what I like from what I'm garnering from the committee and you as the chair, Dr. Natta, is that you're making provisions in all aspects.
We're really trying to. But when we come on shows and we do discussions like this with persons, you've raised some things here that have triggered things even in my mind. So we are not trying to say we have all the answers and we have all the questions and the answers to those questions. So it's really important that we have these kind of dialogues and hear from other persons to inform our decisions, for sure. Definitely,
Dr. Natta. And you see, as I've said, we have to, what I'm garnering from the committee and you is that, you're trying to make sure in some sort of way, no matter what, if I may, that, the child or the parent got to collect, And, but just to back up a bit, as you mentioned that perhaps, well, the committee is still trying to work on certain things, but maybe not the investment portion. Is it safe to say, and I don't know if it's in the pipeline or whatever, but is it safe to say that even in that respect, a certain percentage would be allotted if in that scenario, or that hasn't been thought of as yet? Because I know, like, let's say there are certain companies, right, that once you retire from the company, they have whatever pension scheme, for example, and based on the years that you would have worked with that company, let's say 10 years is the standard, you work for 10 years and then you retire at the after 2 more years after that 10 years, you may only get a certain portion as opposed to all the money that you were supposed to get. So that's what caused me to ask the question, you know. In the worst case scenario as it relates to a death or an unfortunate incident.
Yes. So we have not definitively put anything in place yet on that.
Yes.
Because even outside of death, we have things like incapacitation, where somebody maybe can't make any decisions for themselves. Mental health is a big thing as well. How do we treat with that if a person can't necessarily make a sound decision on their own and that sort of thing? How do we prevent young persons from potentially being taken advantage of by a parent or a guardian because now they have these funds available to them? So there's several scenarios that we're looking at. So that's a good one that you've raised, and the committee will definitely be, the task force will definitely be looking heavily into that. The thing is with human nature, I mean, you know, you can plan as much as you can, but somehow people try and always get around certain things. But we are really trying our best, and we are really have been telling the public and encouraging the public that this program is geared towards young people and empowering young people. We may not have benefited from a program like this because we came along when we came along, but if we really and truly love our children and love the nation that we say we live here and abide in, then we would really embrace this particular program, not try to take advantage program or even the young persons who will be part of the program, but really see it as a way to uplift them, and by virtue of that help to transform the nation as a whole, and so that we become more dependent on ourselves and less dependent on our governments, whether it's our Nevis Island administration or the federal government, that we can stand on our own 2 feet and so forth. And we really want to see better for our young people in the future. So we're just encouraging the adults to be mindful of that particular point, that this is really geared towards young people, empowering them, uplifting them. Yeah.
Dr. Natta, you know, it's interesting, as you've mentioned too. I see a little bit, well, not a little bit, but I see that term self-reliance coming out in a sense, you know, as you pointed out, not to be dependent on the government, because look at it, the hurricane season is about to start, you know, and it would be helpful that, you know, you have something to fall back on just in case something happens, you know. And I must commend again, you know, you and the federal government as a whole for that, for, you know, coming up with the vision to come up with such a program, you know. But Dr. Natta, at this juncture, is there anything you feel that you ought to mention at this point? Anything you feel that the public should know? Definitely.
I want to quote, as I did on I think another program, the Socrates, not the Calypsonian, the Greek philosopher, who said, I know I am intelligent because I know that I know nothing. And I try to live by that mantra. Not that I don't know anything, but I know my limitations. And so it is not really about me. And so I want to highlight the persons who are on the task force, because these are a cadre of professionals that are second to none. So if you'll permit me just to mention the members of the task force, as I'm chair, as you mentioned.
Yes.
But we have from the Ministry of Finance, Mrs. Hilary Hazel, who is the financial secretary.
Yes.
We have Ms. Davinia Tomlinson, who is a finance and investment expert and author of Rosewood Advisory Services, and she heads up our investment strategy subcommittee. From the Ministry of Education, we have Mr. Melvin Basu. From the cable, who is a key player here because of the shares component, we have the CEO, Ms. Pat Walters, as well as the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Sheldon Mitchell. From the St. Kitts Nevis Anguilla National Bank, we have the Managing Director, Mr. Terence Crosman. And from the ECCB, Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, we have Ms. Sybil Welch, who is a senior project specialist there and who heads up our financial education curriculum subcommittee. From the St. Kitts and Nevis National Cooperative League, we have Mr. Peter Jenkins, who is the president. And so there we have a head of the credit unions, so to speak. So we want to ensure that the other financial institutions are on board. And then from the Bankers Association, we have Mr. Steve Farrier, who is the immediate past president. He was the president of the Bankers Association at the time that the task force was set up. And during the course of time, a new president came on board, Mrs. Pamela Herbert Daniels. So she's now been added to the task force, and Mr. Farrier remains on the task force, giving us some good support as well. From the Ministry of Justice and Legal Affairs, you always have to have a legal mind in the room when you're dealing with these complex matters. We have Ms. LaShawn K. Smart, who is a Crown Counsel too. And from our Nevis Island Administration, we have Ms. Janisha Daniel, who is an audit manager, I think, at the Inland Revenue Department. So based on the membership of the task force, I'm sure you can appreciate that we have a high caliber set of individuals, like I said, who are way smarter than me in these matters, and who I lean on heavily for their guidance and support. And I really want to thank them for the hard work. We meet very regularly, and they meet in their subcommittees even more regularly to really trash out a lot of these questions and so on that you've raised here today. So I really want to thank them for that. I was supposed to be joined by one of the members, and unfortunately had a death in her family. So I won't say her name, but I just want to extend my condolences to her at this time, because she's a very key member for the task force and who wanted to be here today. So I extend my condolences on behalf of myself, the government as a whole, the task force members as well.
But Dr. Natta, if I may, I would like to add our condolences here at Vaughan Radio too, and we certainly want to wish the family and the lady in particular well. Hope that everything, goes according, and the family will be comforted also.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Dr. Natta, Dr. Marcus Natta, the Cabinet Secretary within the Federal Government of St. Kitts and Nevis, who is also the chair of the government's Financial Education Saving Program. Thank you very much for your time. We do appreciate it. You've answered a lot of questions. There are still questions, but
yes,
we can't list every question.
Yes,
So thank you very much, sir. I mean, you have provided a wide range of things today, and caused me to think differently.
Yes.
So I must say I appreciate that. And whenever this program is, ready to be launched, I can assume that, wow, it's gonna be interesting.
Yes.
And I don't want you to use the mind-blowing term, but it's gonna be fantastic.
Yes.
Because when you're talking about money, people always get excited. You can imagine the children, So,
Yes.
So, Dr. Natta, if you don't have anything else you would like to mention,
No, I just want to
Yes.
thank you and thank
Yes.
the management and staff here at Vaughan Radio for giving me the opportunity, the platform to share. I really wanted to make it my business to come in person and come over to Nevis, and I'm glad that you said that this is a national program.
Yes.
The spirit in which the Prime Minister mentioned this, and in his address, he meant it for every young citizen here
Yes.
on Nevis and on St. Kitts. And that is critically important. So I really wanted to come over and speak face to face with you about it, and speak to the persons here on Nevis about it. And it will not be my last, I hope. And if it's not me, some other members will come over and give a further update. But I really felt it was important to come over, and I feel that it is important that we let persons know that this task force is working. Because as I said, once the Prime Minister says something, people expect it to happen. They may expect it to happen instantaneously, but they expect it to happen at somehow, somewhere.
That's right. Yes.
And we wanted to ensure that persons realize that the task force is working. We're making good progress. It's a complex, novel, mind-blowing, maybe, initiative
Yes.
that the Prime Minister has come up with, and we want to do it in a prudent way. We don't want to have any major issues. There might be little things here and there, but we want to work prudently, carefully, pragmatically, so that the young people of the country can truly benefit from this novel program. This isn't anywhere else in the region as far as I know.
Exactly.
So
yes.
we want to get it right the first time.
Dr. Marcus Natta, thank you very much for your
Thank you
time
so much
once
for having
again.
me.
And you're welcome, sir. And as you say, this will not be your first and your last. And if you don't come, a representative
Someone
will be here, definitely. You know, so thank you very much. Thank you once again for all that you've said and for taking the time to come over here to Nevis out of your busy schedule, sir.
You're most
you know,
welcome.
because I know, based on what I've garnered so far, you wear more than one hat.
many hats.
So, thanks very much,
Blame
sir.
the Prime Minister for that. When you see him, tell him.
So-
have too many hats.
Dr. Natta, thank you very
My
much.
pleasure,
and
man. It's
and
my
all the
pleasure.
best to you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
Pleasure.
thanks.